Yes, welcome. This is F.a Rap Critic. I'm your boy Malik-16. And no, not from the crest side of things, but I did used to live in Vallejo, so shout out to the whole V. And I'm joined today by Bay Area royalty, legend right here, young legend. I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Who you be?
And Don Toriano, man, from San Francisco, California, Filmo. Toriano Gordon, CEO, Vegan Mob founder.
Okay, he got his business voice on, y'all.
I'm too big. I'm him and him.
But it's been a lot of write-ups on you in the past few years. But this is gonna be different than any other situation because I'm gonna ask you a little bit about everything. And today, since we're keeping it real Bay, the album we're talking about, classic, 30 years old this year. And yeah, man, we're talking about none other than Mac Mall, Illegal Business, the debut. And a little background about this album: it was released in July of 1993 on Young Black Brother Records. And this was Toriano's choice. So we're going to get down to it. But my first question is going to be a question for you. So if y'all have not already, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. And this is category 1 where we go over the album, the product itself. So my first question to you, Toriano, is it's going to be a two-parter. What's your definition of mob music? And then the second part of that question is, what do you feel about the San Francisco hip-hop scene, like, since the beginning, since day one? All right,
Yeah.
So mob music, what does that mean to you?
So mob music, man, it's our version of like gangster rap, and it's just heavy bass. It's funky. It's mob. It's like it's hard. It's really hard. Like but it's musical at the same time. We gotta it make your face frown up, and it make you feel. It gives you an energy, a different energy than any other type of music. It's nothing like it. And I've always loved my music since when I was 13. Mac Mall I was 13 when the album came out, and that was my favorite album that I was playing. I would play that album back to back all day. Yeah. Before that, it was Mac Dre, Young Black Brother. But when that came out, like Mac Mall album is definitely like my music. You know what I mean?
So then the second part of that question is the San Francisco question, because you're from Fillmore, and San Francisco is interesting when it comes to hip hop because y'all been there since the 80s. But I feel like when people think about Bay Area hip hop, they think of Oakland first, then Vallejo, and then sometimes even Sacramento, which is not the Bay, gets mentioned before San Francisco.
Right. So my thing about San Francisco rap, man, is it's funny that it gets that rep, but like right now I think it's hot. I think San Francisco rap is hot right now. I think we're killing it. And from old school San Francisco rap, like we some of the first who started it. Like QEMC is one of the first rappers that come out the Bay Area to rap. Rappin' Forte is probably the first rapper to have one of the major, besides Too Short, to be on a major label. Rappin' Forte, both artists out of Fillmore. And then we got Cougnut. Rest in peace, Cougnut. I think Cougnut was probably one of the best in the Bay Area. And Messy Marv. Let's not forget about Messy Marv. Messy Marv, for gangster rap, was probably the hardest rapper out of the Bay Area for years, like consecutively. People know about Mess everywhere. Only thing that kind of mess up is the drugs. But a lot of people who rap nowadays are basically babies of they Mess helped create their style because they were inspired. Like Mozzie would tell you that Mess was his favorite rapper, and that's why Mozzie put out Mess. And Mozzie is one of the biggest rappers out of Northern California. So like Filmo is in San Francisco is very innovative when it comes to the rap game. Let's not forget. I am getting Filmo bias, but let's not forget about RBL Posse,
Right.
Selsky, my brother Selsky, and of course I said Kugna is probably one of the hardest to ever come out. Not just the city, but the Bay Area, Northern California, period. You know what I'm saying? So San Quinn, you know, who I came up under, and then JT the Bigger Figure with his whole sound. So like,
but when
there's the older people,
mm-hmm.
and then we got new people like Zay Bang, Lil Bing, Lil Pete, Yee. Yee is probably one of the best young rappers that's out of the Bay Area right now. You know, and Stunner Man, Gunna goes global, but Stunner Man probably had the biggest record out of the biggest records out of the Bay Area last year.
Stunner Man probably one of the last rappers from the city I seen get farther out, because that's basically the question I was asking, because when you think about other regions, when they think of the Bay, they immediately go to Oakland. Why do you think it is that San Francisco kind of comes second or third?
I think too, because we got a rap of like, there's two things. Oakland is the black mecca of the Bay Area. You know, people don't think black when they think of San Francisco, and especially now because of the gentrification. And then I'm not homophobic or anything like that. I'm not a hateful person, but they associate San Francisco with gay.
Rainbows, yeah.
With the rainbow, and rap is hard. You feel me? And so they don't know that might confuse people, and we've had a chip on our shoulder because of that. But San Francisco is one of the hardest places in the Bay Area. Man. You know, Fillmore, Hunters Point, Sunnydale, Lakeview, Trail Hill, Army Street ain't really to be played with. And you know what I'm saying? So like, they don't know that until they find it out. You know, and so I think that's one of the reasons. Bay Area people respect like Oakland, Vallejo, Richmond. They respect San Francisco, but outside of the region, they don't really know. Like Snoop said what he said that line, and then he apologized. You know, I heard your mama was a Frisco. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he loved rapping Forte. He loved JT the Bigger Figure. Larry June, one of the biggest rappers out of the Bay Area. Period. Everybody loved Larry June all over the world. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we are now getting that recognition, and June is probably the one that started to help. But I believe, like before, while we've been shadowed, it's probably not because of the talent, but because of the misconception.
Gotcha. I respect and appreciate you so much for even saying the city got a chip on the shoulder. Yeah, that's real.
That's why we act like how we act.
That's real. All right, we're gonna jump into the first Mac Mall question. The first dimension we talk about in category 1 is the quality of the production. Man, what can we say about the production on this album?
Kyrie. That's all I gotta say is Kyrie. Man, Kyrie is one of my favorite producers, period. Like, I've always wanted a Kyrie track, and I'm still trying to get one.
By the time you get to like the 4th track, they like, no samples, we don't do none of that. So we talking about a 15-track album, all original production. Like, you can hear the influence, you can hear the Parliament Funkadelic influence in there, the G-Funk, but it's so original, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and that's really like Vallejo for you. Like, not even just like the Bay Area, but like Vallejo. Like, Vallejo is real. I believe like we're all original out here. Oakland has a funky sound, you know, more funky. I think Oakland for a long time was more of a commercial sound that came out of the Bay Area, right? And that's why Oakland, because of like Too Short, MC Hammer, Digital Underground, Social Mischief, that's why Oakland always stood out, like, because it got on a larger level. Frisco always had like a darker you know, like grimy type of sound, you know, and underground type of sound for not hip hop, but for more like rap. And then Vallejo just always had this just like musical like sound, and I like Kyrie is one of the creators of that sound, of that mob music, of that. He more like player with it. It's like, it's just unexplainable. His music is
You can tell he's a musician. He's not just a DJ. That man was playing the synths. He was playing the keys, and if you notice, like almost every song, the third verse, he's gonna switch the beat, like on some Timberland.
The Mac breakdown.
The Mac breakdown. There you go.
He got that from the Mac, man. The Mac, rest in peace, who got killed. You know, they call it Mac breakdowns. You know, and he came out with one of the first hits out of the Bay Area. The game is thick. You know, and if you listen to that, that's that like Chris Eye sound. The game's thick. I remember growing up on that. So like, Kyrie is just, the production on the Mac Mall tape is unmatched.
Yeah,
it's unmatched.
He does some things, man. There's some sounds on there that if any other producer did it for a whole song, it'd be annoying. Like I think Sick With It, that keeps coming, or even You Can't See Me, right? Or You Don't Want to See Me, where they remake Too Hard for the Radio, and then the sound that's all throughout that is so it's still, like you said, it's so musical that it's pleasing to the ear. I think on first listen, it's like, yo, these sounds are hella noisy, but they work. They work.
Yeah, so, he know what he's doing. He knew what he was doing. Like,
yeah, and there's a crispness to it. Like to this day, a lot of beats didn't last from 1993. I feel like most of these beats could still at least knock. They can still slap.
Yeah, if he would do a Sick With It Part 2, I think it still hit. People still love it.
Yep. So on a scale from 1 to 5, what you giving the production on this album? 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest.
5 for sure.
5 for sure. All right. That takes us to another Toriano question. Sir, it's time to talk about Young No. No. How did you get your start in music?
My biological father was in prison, and I was raised by a man named Daddy Marco. You know, he was my brother and sister's biological father, who I call my dad, and still is, you know, he's a stepfather, but I never really called him stepfather. But now my biological father is present in my life, and so I just say he's the one who raised me, and the biological father is the one that made me who I made, you know, who I love just as, you know, who I love very much. But my daddy Marco did music, did reggae music, and so I watch him do ever since I was a kid, and he bought mics for me and things like that, and kind of kept me, you know, oiled up and ready to go. But I had some cats. I met my white boy partners, man, by the name of Shimp and Dunce. My boy Wyatt from the neighborhood introduced me to him. We started working out of his house in his mom's basically like basement, and we made a whole album, and I was about 14 years old, 14, 15, around that 14, and I put the tape together. Then I started making more music, and then I put something together, and my cousin's friend, well, really good friend, who was like a cousin to me and a cousin to her at that time, she called him her brother. He was a D-boy, and so I knew he had bread, and I just like got in his ear, and I was like, listen to this, and I was rapping it to him, and I painted a picture, and then he basically started to put money into my album. I started to make it when I was 15. I finished when I was like 16 and a half. My mom would not sign a contract, so until I turned 18. No, she signed the period. So when I turned 18, I signed the contract, and he put out the album. And so that's how I got into, that's how Young No came out. It's basically like always been this entrepreneur. Like I always try to bust a move ever since I was a little kid, and I talked, convinced him, and showed him that I was dope, and he put all the bread up for it, and that's how I got into it.
Wow.
And then Young No is probably one of the people say Young No is probably one of the hardest San Francisco albums that ever came out, and I was a kid, and I was basing my music off of albums like Illegal Business. That's probably who inspired me the most is Mac Mall, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm hearing the parallel. As soon as you told your story, I'm like, well, damn, that's the same thing he was saying about the making of his album. Like, he had to get his parents' approval, even though he spit some gangsta shit. He was 15 and he came out when he was 16. Like, that's crazy. But yours didn't technically come out until you were 18.
Yep, and really, like, my inspiration was San Quinn, because he was 15 when his album came out. We from the same hood, and family, all the family is connected. And I was like, Quinn, I saw Quinn do it, and that's what inspired me to know that I can do it. But the musical influence was definitely like of that album. What majority was probably Illegal Business. Of course, there was some Quinn influence on there, some JT, and but E40, whatever. But really Mac Mall, for real. RBL Posse, but really Mac Mall was like, I based my album off of that, because Legal Business had no weak songs on it.
Ooh, that we're gonna jump into that soon.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So like, and you could probably relate to that more. It's another dude, same age bracket and kind of in the same lane. So damn, what a story, man. Shout out to San Quinn, by the way.
And they're the same age, I believe. I think they are the same age.
Are you serious?
Yeah. They damn near, they was being compared around that time.
That's crazy. All right, you just told me something. So we go into Dimension 2, the cohesiveness of this album. How does this album flow from song to song, from beginning to end? What can we say about the flow of it?
Non-stop hits. Like it starts off, gets you pumped up, and then it drops into a story, and then it gets you pumped up again. It comes into another story, then it comes into something you can ride to, and then it comes to another story, and then it comes to some player shit, and then it was like it was put together really well. It was like, I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it was maybe subconsciously. I don't know but the shit like was perfect.
Yeah, you could tell Kyrie definitely was the mentor. He was the executive producer, because he's doing the talking parts in between, filling the space. He's doing the singing. My favorite track, It's All Good. The la da 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 dee da da. That's so like
that go crazy.
All those little touches add to make the album feel polished, right? We already talked about how detailed the production is. Like, we gonna make this a musical trip. Every song is hella long. Like, ain't no song 2 minutes. So like, they dragging out the music, they dragging out the shout outs, but it all blends. And like you said, I think the tempos, that's important. So you get a up-tempo track like I Got to Have It, right?
Yeah, I got to have it. Yeah, I got to have it. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, then you slow it back down. Like you said, you get your story, Cold Sweat, the first of a couple stories on the album. And just when you need something more like commercial, like Money on the Dank, so yeah, it's got that up and down. Now, would you say it's too many songs, 15 songs, or that's right there?
I think it's on point.
Yeah, I mean, you might be a little biased, man. Y'all, Frisco Rap, y'all be having like 20 track albums.
Yeah.
But okay, what would you give this on a scale from 1 to 5 to the cohesiveness?
For me, it's probably one of my all-time favorite albums, so I have to give it 5.
Okay, cool. All right, we jump to another Toriano question. Fully Loaded. Loaded. How did that come into play? One of the best groups out the entire Bay. How did that happen?
So Big Rich approached me at Kezar Stadium which is in the neighborhood. It's Upper Haight, Filmo, and we met. I thought he was big Samoan, and he showed me he did music, and we met. He's from the Banneker's, from down the way. I'm from up the way. You know, while I was doing Young No, we would do a lot of talking. My album was done by then. He loved it. He was like, this shit was dope. Like, I was one of the first people out of that generation as a solo artist to do something. After Quinn, they had the Gamblers, but nobody was solo in that group. It was just me. And out of the neighborhood, out of that age group. Yeah. And so I always wanted to be in a group because of the Hood Stars. So back in the days, the Hood Stars were called Never Lego, and Never Lego was like 5 people. And I went on a tour with them. Hood Stars is Band-Aid and Scoop. Scoop go kill me. And so we went. Scoop wasn't in Never Lego at the time. It was just a bunch of them, right? And we went on tour. Portland, Reno, all these places, and when we're on tour, like Never Legal would be, they would rap with each other, and they would just back each other up. Like every time somebody rap, another person would come in, and it was the tightest thing I ever seen. I was like, this is dope, and so I was like, I want a group. So I asked Bailey, Quinn's little brother, and I asked Big Rich to start a group. And they was all down to do it, and so we came with the group. We did a couple songs, and then I hollered at my boy, rest in peace, Big Delvin Cookie Monster. He passed away a year. Was it a year? Has it been? I think it's been a year, maybe a little bit longer than a year. Cookie Monster is the little brother of Frisco Chuck, who is one of Nick Cannon's managers now. Done Deal. Chuck was Done Deal Records. Before that, it was Explosive Mode. And so Quinn actually was like, y'all, you need to be in the group with my brother. And so I hollered at Rich. I hollered at Bailey. And we came up with the group. It was first called Full Fledged, but there was a group out of Hunters Point called Full Fledged from West Point. And so, who was my folks? Shout out Lil Lee. They was my peoples. I rock with everybody in the city. And then we came with Fully Loaded. And Fully Loaded was so hard because everybody was raw. And we had people like Quinn and Mess Up around us. And so, like, every session, we was like, nobody can come weak, because if you come weak, somebody was gonna get roasted. Somebody was gonna get somebody was gonna get all over you, right? And so we just complimented each other because we knew we had to come vicious on everything. Everybody put their all in every time they rapped. And so that group came together through Quinn and me and Big Rich meeting, and I said, hey, look, I told Quinn, I was like, Big Rich got to be in this group. Hollered at Bailey, and Quinn wanted me to be in the group with his brother because of Young No album.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yo, the synergy was crazy. I mean, the contrast to your voices, the different flows, like, it worked, man. And then so another San Francisco rap question to piggyback off that. Do you feel like the group did what it needed to do? Like, y'all made the impact that y'all needed to make, or it could have been bigger?
I think both. I think that there is a lot of young cats till this day that are inspired, Fully Loaded inspired, that have some inspiration from Fully Loaded. Like a lot of young artists that, especially out of Filmo, came up on Fully Loaded, like, Stunner Man, Showy, they all, they came up. They was younger than us, way younger than us, and it was almost like us coming up on Quinn and stuff. But there's other artists that had a lot of fully loaded inspiration too, like rest in peace Killer Keith. He loved Big Rich. That was one of his favorite rappers, and so I think that we did impact the game with our style, but I do think that we could have been way bigger because we didn't have no social media back then.
Yeah, this was the mixtape era. That's when the grind was the grind. You had to put out physical mixtapes. I had to drop each and every one of mine, get them printed up, had the graphics together, go sling them, So like, it's definitely a different era. But y'all don't give props. I just realized y'all are responsible for introducing your boy.
Yep.
And I know he went on to have the Convict music deal, but that never really went anywhere. But do y'all get y'all credit for that introduction or
from him? Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, from him, definitely. Like, that's our little cousin, Bailey's and Quinn's actual blood cousin on their mom's side. Will is they were, that's family. We all family. So, your boy now, who is Rich Rocker, came up like we were his favorite rappers. He loved us, and so he never stops letting us know. Like, till this day, like I could be around. He always tells me, like, when you hear me, you hear you. Like he'll say it. He'll tell me all the time. Like he very humble about that. Like and he's a great rapper. Like he got his own shit too. But he definitely got his own shit. But he definitely pays his homage. You know what I mean? And I don't know if we get it from the outside because we're not really looking for it.
Right.
But he definitely won't let us forget. And Bailey, the one who brought him around, because him and Bailey, like, and they still do shit to this day.
Yeah, y'all we need to pause for the cause and give y'all props for rapping over the Star Wars theme. I know y'all couldn't put that out officially, but that 16s with me.
Oh, he went crazy on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the remix. I don't think you were on the remix. It was Rich Bailey on that, but and my favorite joint, Jesus G's. Y'all killed that. But
oh yeah, we did. That was on that one.
Yeah, that's Street.
Yeah. That hit the radio.
Yeah.
That was playing. Yeah.
So yeah, man, I just wanted to give you your flowers while I got you here for that.
Right on. We was radio heavy back in the days. That's what we did. Like towards the end of Done Deal, we got a lot of radio play, and then I got more involved in out of the studio and more involved in streets and using and shit like that, and took a turn for a minute, and they stayed more professional. You know what I mean? And which helped, but I had my demons I was fighting.
Gotcha. So that was the beginning of a life change. We gonna go into that a little bit. All right, we gonna jump right back into the Mac Moore album. This is kind of we doing that seesaw. Dimension 3, the intentional mood and tone. What do you think the mood and the tone of this album they were going for, and do you think they pulled it off?
I think it was educational. I think it was a player shit, and I think that mob sound, that just musical and just really creative, and I think that the title was called Illegal Business, and so like what he's teaching a lot. He's teaching like what illegal business is in America, why things are how they, and about bank robberies, and not just in the hood, but just as far as like in the upper offices too. Like it's illegal business, and then about he has songs that to empower the youth and to teach the youth. Like young players got to get it together. You know what I mean? And I think it was. I think he was teaching. You know, and one of his teachers is Tupac, and so he just did it in his own way. But I think what he was trying to get across, he got it across. Like it was definitely some player shit, and he let that be known. Because you always see Mac Mall as a player, man. Like his sound is very player, you know, and that definitely what got across. My sound is very player, and I got a lot. I'm telling you, like I know my sound is player, and that I got a lot of that because from listening to them albums, you know, and you know his name, you know, Mac Dre, Mac Mall, the Mac, like they Macs, you know what I'm saying? So it's really the name matches the music. So I definitely think that he definitely got his point across, and I definitely think that's a 5 for sure.
Okay, you jump right to the 5. It's funny when I think about the fact that this man was only like 15, 16, and you know, I reached out to Mac. It'd be interesting to hear his take on this dimension, because I mean, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect you to say teaching and education, because most write-ups definitely credit this album as like a gangster rap album. And before you hear the word player, you hear gangster, because I mean, the first couple songs he's talking about shooting people or whatever. But you know, the first song is your player song, the first and last song.
Right.
Stick with it and pimp shit, right? Yeah. Those set the tone, and those in the tone, and in between there's a bunch of gangster stuff. But I think sprinkled in, it reminds me of Outkast's first album. And keep in mind, they were teenagers when that album came out. Dre said they always tried to sprinkle in some knowledge in the gangster shit. So it's like they knew they couldn't come out preaching, but then they have a song like Flim Flam or, you know, Get Up, Get Out. And that's what Mac could do. Like, Ghetto Theme is the only straightforward, all right, I'm talking this straight positivity. But in other things, like you said, illegal business itself, he is talking about how America conducts itself. He even has a line, he's like a triple B, but ain't nothing balanced. The economy ain't got to me, so now I'm living scandalous. Like, something like that.
Yeah, he was speaking, and he was like, basically how it was all set up, and how why when people are doing it, and how he got there. And, you know what I mean? And I can hear the teaching tone though. Since I was a kid, like I could hear the tone kind of showed that he was teaching them songs. Like he was young, and somebody was definitely teaching him. You know, and like I said, I think he was Pac influenced, even though the styles are different, but the content, some of the content is definitely Tupac influence for sure.
Which is crazy, because I hear both of them being influenced by each other from like the flow, some of the flow patterns. I'm like, oh yeah, if you just switch the voices, these could be each other's songs. Yeah.
Well, so, Ray Love was Pac's group member.
Exactly. You know? Yeah, that's who he told me to hit up too. He told me to hit up Ray Love to set up the meeting. Dimension 4, the song distinction and repetition. So we talked about how dope the production is, how good the album flows song by song. But are there any tracks on here that sound too similar to each other, where it gets a little redundant?
Yeah, with Kyrie's beats, it could be like where songs sound similar, and I think more they will sound similar to like Mac Dre's Young Black Brother album. Yeah, you know. I think some of those beats even sound more similar to each other than the beats that they do in there. I do think that some of the beats can sound similar because it's the same producer, but
yeah, like I think Cracker 40 and I Got to Have It are kind of similar because they both got that. Like I said, that heavy Parliament Funkadelic influence without sampling Parliament Funkadelic, but you know where it's derived from. Right. Crack 40 almost sound like Shock G production a little bit, but okay, so that's on the beat side. Now on the word side of things, we know there's two different kinds of rap repetition. You got the intentional, I'm branding something I want y'all to notice. Like Mike Jones, he's gonna say his name a bunch of times because he wants you to remember he's Mike Jones. You shouting out your crew, you shouting out your record label. So on this album, of course, you're gonna hear Crest a lot because that's the area. He might even say his Avenue, Sawyer. You shouting out his Cess faculty, Sesame Street crew, and a couple other things. He shout out Mac Dre a lot because that's his mentor. But I don't feel like any of that was lazy writing. Sometimes you hear rappers repeat the same phrases, the same kind of words because they don't have anything else to say. With him, it felt like everything was intentional. You hear any repetition or redundancy on the words?
I think it was just passion.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't think that, like I said, I don't think it was intentionally done as branding. I think it was intentionally done as like, I'm showing love. Like, you know, let me make sure my folks get they love. Or it just was coming out like that. Like, I might say Filmo hella times on the album, or I was told one time that I said Filmo too much.
It's possible.
Yeah. I was like, huh? And I was like, but I just rap it. You know? And so I feel like that I probably don't say Filmo that much no more because I'm older, you know? And everybody knows, you know what I mean?
But on the album, that could take away. That could be a weakness if it's like, man, this guy just say the same shit every song. But right. What I'm saying, I don't know if I hear that on this album.
It didn't bother me. Nope. I don't think so.
So you put those two things together. You say some of the beats can sound similar, and some of the words get repeated, but it didn't bother you. What you giving this on a scale from 1 to 5? Does it lose a half a point or? No?
It don't for me.
So it's still a 5.
It's still a 5, yeah.
All right, I got a feeling it's gonna be all 5s. All right, I'm gonna jump to the next dimension 5. Since we talk about 5, that's the content versus the amount of songs. So we already established there's 15 songs on here. You know, the magic number for most classic albums is if you can get a 10-song album, it's hard to go wrong with 10. 12 is standard for rap. 15 is pushing it, because then it's this idea of, man, how much do you have to talk about? Do you feel like there's a balance on this album of the different things that Mac talked about?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. The songs all had different stories. Some of them weren't stories. Some were like more spitting. Like Sick With This, he was just straight spitting. You know, It's All Good. Yeah. He was just straight spitting. You know what I mean? I Got to Have It was more like an up tempo. You know what I mean?
Straight spitting. You know, but then you got, like you said, you got Legal Business. You got the bank heist. You got hella stories on there.
Yeah.
I think Mac,
pimp shit. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about pimping. You know, talking about player shit. You know what I'm saying? I think it's perfect.
It's perfect. Okay, that sounds like another 5 to me. All right, so back to Toriano. We pivoted, man. How you pivoted? So you just spoke on it, and I'm not gonna go, too deep into your business, but me and you got a lot in common in some crazy ways. So for one, bruh, we got the same birthday. I didn't realize that. I follow you on the grid for years. I'm like, this man October 22nd too?
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope.
Besides my grandma, I ain't never met another dude with my birthday. So I'm like, yeah, man, we shut down Libra season. We the closers.
Come on, man.
I read something on you that said, man, you was going to school for psychotherapy, man. That's wild. That's what I do.
That's crazy.
I run a program, and I'm like, yo, that was really the path that you set yourself on. What the hell? What got you to that point in life where you were making this big shift?
Because I was so traumatized by the lifestyle that I lived, and I don't know, I wouldn't say it. The crime part, more of the addiction part.
Wow.
Because my thoughts that led me to the addiction, not feeling just the changes in my thoughts, you know, growing up, I didn't know how to take that. I felt different. Like I didn't feel. Before, when I was young, I was a wild young cat. Like, and so when I started to mature, I felt like it wasn't. I felt uncomfortable because I felt like it wasn't me. You know, and I didn't know how to approach that until I matured into my maturity. You know, and so I went into that because I felt like I can be there to talk to young cats that are dealing with addiction, dealing with maybe low confidence or self-esteem, or afraid of their thoughts, whatever, you know, and to teach them like it's really not, it's a trick. Like you're in control, you know. You are who you think you are. You don't go against who you are, you know. And to try to be a black person and a black man who's been through like the streets, been through the gang, been through addiction, to be able to be a support system for these young cats. But I decided when I was in the program that it wasn't for me, just because I didn't see a lot of. There's a few reasons. The reason that I left is kind of the reason that I came. Like I was like the only black dude in the class. Like, and I was like one of the only men in the class, you know. And that was kind of like why that was part of the reason. And then the other part was like, I know I didn't want to work for anybody, and I was always trying to figure out how I'm gonna create my own program, create my own thing, and just work for myself. And then the idea just really came up, like me wanting to do a restaurant, me doing music, being on the internet, kind of just like veered me away from that part of the game. I think I was still trying to find myself, you know, but I feel like a calling of mine is to help the youth and to help my peers, like, you know, to be a good example, to support them, give them some game. And so I felt like I had to do it that way, by being like a counselor or being a therapist. And then when I talked to my counselors when I was leaving, I told them, they were like, you can do that outside of an office. Like you can do that by just being you. And so I ended up leaving the program. I was getting straight A's and everything. I got straight A's all through college. I did my grade point average was a cumulative 3.9 when I graduated.
Yeah, go ahead, brag, pop your collar.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, for my BA. And then when I got to grad school, it was probably the toughest that I had, because the BA program actually was not really that hard for me, which is crazy because I never was really good in school. And when I got in there, it was challenging, but I got straight A's. I only had one B plus. And so they were like, what's wrong? Why are you leaving? And I was like, it ain't. Y'all told me to soul search, and I figured out really who I am and what I want to do, you know. But it was really, I like education, and I was really trying to figure out what my purpose was. And at that time, I thought my purpose was to be a therapist and help the youth. But now I feel like I'm doing that right now by being a positive figure, you know, in the game, and role model, just inspiring people, you know, being a God-fearing man, leading the God way. And before I did, if you listen to all my old albums, it definitely wasn't godly, and I definitely was inspiring and influencing a lot of people, you know. And I feel like I have to give back positivity in order to be that godly man. So that's why I went that way.
Yeah. Well, I listen to tracks like Morphine Beat. That's definitely a different man. Yeah, man.
I
Listen.
felt that way, and that's how I really felt back then.
Oh yeah. That's a Bay mentality for sure.
Yeah, I felt. And my dad, like I said, Daddy Marco was a pimp. Daddy Marco was a pimp. Like my dad, the person who raised me, was a pimp. Like all that shit that I was spitting was real game that I've learned all my life. Like I got sick, like right there. I used to be on the blade at 13 years old, driving this Cadillac. You know what I'm saying? Then my biological father is a gangster. So like everything that nothing was fabricated. Yeah, everything was real. And then I got older.
And that's what I was gonna say, just for clarity, man. You started off, you were saying it wasn't even the addiction that hit you the hardest, it was the crime. You telling me the crime came after you had this poppin' rap career?
Yeah. Well, the crime, I believe I said the addiction hit me harder than the crime.
That's what you said. Okay.
Yeah. I always was pretty. I always did shit. Yeah. Always when I was before rapping, you know. The drugs probably took me further down though, into the bullshit. But I always did shit like without drugs.
Got you. Yeah. I feel you.
The drugs was to hide the guilt, because at one point I didn't have no guilt. I didn't care. Like I said, that was the wild part. Like I thought it was okay, but then when I got older, I didn't think it was okay, and that felt uncomfortable to me.
Yeah, that dichotomy there. Yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Yeah, that dichotomy of maturity is real.
I was like, I thought I was getting weird, and so the drugs. I think that's why some people do like coke and stuff, so they can hide their true conscience and be like,
that's the crazy part is that each and every last one of these questions I'm asking, we probably do our own conversation on these, because it's like, again, we come from similar shit, man. But like everything you said about being the only one in the classroom, it kind of underscores why it's so important to have that representation. I can't imagine all the clients that we probably lost just because they don't see another face that looks like this, right?
Right.
I understood why you pivoted as well. And then the other part, being able to be a vessel from your experience and turn that, the kids are more apt to listen to you than anybody behind the desk, because you can be like, look, I know I was out there, you know, I know what it's like to bip cars and all that shit, like, you know what I mean? So they'll respect that a mile away from somebody else, from a texture. So,
when I was becoming a therapist, I was thinking like, all right, I'm gonna be like a hip hop therapist. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna have my client, like I'm gonna be like this famous. I always had a mentality of being like big, you know, when I was a kid. Since I was a kid, like I'm a rapper, so like, you know what I mean, and to wanting to make a lot of money, and so it didn't mix with my dream as far as like me wanting to do all this big shit, you know. And so that's why I veered away from it a bit too, but I can still do that, right? I can still talk about trauma. I can still talk about how to solve the trauma, and now I got education on it too. Like I'm educated on why we are traumatized, you know, and how to deal with it, and mindfulness, and the school to prison pipeline, and understanding emotional intelligence and things like that. And so now I don't think it was a waste, you know. Now I use it with my business. I use it on myself.
It's never a waste, for sure.
Yeah. So I can still show like the youth and my peers, like, you know, I can still inspire, and I can still give them my story and help them, and I don't have to have them as clients. I can just do it. That's who I am, you know?
Yeah, that's real. I'm trying. This is wild. I'm trying to be mindful of your time, so let me try to breeze through as much as I can.
Yeah, cause I talk. My bad.
It's all good. I mean, if you gotta jump out, just let me know. I'm gonna just try to keep it organic. All right. So, Dementia 6, the features. It's only 3 features on this album, man. You got Ebony Foster from Nothing Nice, she's singing on Ghetto Theme, and you got the crew. You got Ray Love and Mac Dre himself and Kyrie. Features can either help an album or hurt an album. I already know what you're gonna say. How you feel about the features on this?
Oh, I mean, for this, I mean, I love Young Black Brother. So everybody that was on that album, I was a fan of. You know, I mean, even I think Ebony Foster was a Young Black Brother artist as well, right?
I think so. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna fact check before I post the episode up. But
she was hard. I mean, I think everybody was dope.
Yeah.
You know, the features almost didn't even seem like features because it seemed like they were just supposed to be a part of that album, and they played their part. You know what I mean?
Wait to the last song to even have features. Like, to hold a whole album down on your own, 15 tracks at 16 years old, like that's tough.
That was crazy. Cause I mean, he didn't really need him.
And they all came hard on their verses. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, Mac Dre, Ray Love, and even Kyrie.
Yeah. Kyrie I think he had my favorite verse on there, but Mac.
Then you know it. That's a rich black nigga, now she know it. Hey, because he was coaching them a lot.
Yeah.
But he was so music, he wanted to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That's a great producer. Like he was a great producer. You know what I mean? Probably still is. You know.
Again, another parallel to Outkast, because like Organized Noise, they could have did it themselves, but they coached and mentored Outkast for greatness. He had that crazy line where he's like, where he said something about filming it and sending it to your daddy, though.
Yeah.
All right, Mac Dre doing his verse from the pen is crazy, from the federal pen.
And that's what I be spitting.
Classic, man. That
was legendary.
The stamp of approval on your debut album, man. You get the man himself doing a jail verse for you, prison verse. Crazy.
That was legendary.
All right, so it sounds like you're giving these features a 5 on the scale from 1 to 5.
Yep.
All right, so that takes us to Dementia 7. The question of, does the weakest song or do the weakest song bring the album down? Now, in the beginning of this episode, you said there is no weak song. So is there not one track that you find yourself skipping when you listen to this album?
You know, for that album, now I might, depending on my mood. You know what I mean? But back then, no, I didn't. I felt like it was needed. Like, when it got down to the stories, the stories would really be like the calm down songs, you know. And I felt like those are needed. They weren't weak to me. Like, he still was rapping really good.
You know, listening as a grown man, I appreciate the story factor because I think that's his strong suit right there. Like, stories are the toughest thing he got. Track I skip is Versatile. I don't really care for the beat on Versatile.
I like Versatile. Yeah.
What's the one you skipped then?
Maybe like it depends on my mood. I might skip Illegal Business just because you know, I might be outside or something like that. You know?
Right. Got you. Fair enough. So
I'm trying to keep it lit like a DJ. But if I'm listening in the car, I really didn't.
Got you.
You know?
So there's no song on here that you feel like brings the quality down. This is all a 5.
I don't think so.
Okay, that sounds like a 5 to me. I feel like the stories are the strongest songs on there, but I'm also listening with these ears. I didn't. This album wasn't on my radar when I was his age. You know what I mean? So I wanted to ask you one last hip hop question about what's your connection with the Jacka? Because we almost did that album. You gave me a couple choices. I was like, let's go with the Mac more because it's the anniversary. But
oh man, Jack is fam. Like the Mom Figures in Fully Loaded. You know, that's like our big brothers. You know, Mom Figures lived in Fillmore at one point in time. They, you know, and they were doing music in the Mo, and AP9 is, you know, he's from the town, from Pizza. He's moved all over the Bay, and you know, he spent part of his life growing up in Fillmore. You know what I mean? And so we always had a close connection to the Mob Figures because of AP, and Jack was like, you know, that was my brother right there. You know what I'm saying? Jack was a real humble dude. You know, always showed love. You know what I'm saying? He was busy as hell, but he would stop by when, you know, I hit him up. He'd stop by if he could, you know, and we got some music together. It's just like, that's just like extended family for real. Like, you know, Huss, yeah. AP9, you know, Fetty, Ryder, PK, you know, that's folks. You know, that's all our folks right there.
Got you.
Can't forget about Rob Lowe. You
okay.
Know? Yeah, man, them is all our brodies right there, you know.
Rest in peace to the Jacka.
R.I.P. to Jack, man.
Dimension 8, the mass appeal. This goes back to what we were talking about in the very beginning. This idea that Bay Area rap being self-contained to the point where they're not really thinking about other regions. And then we have a few who made it out and hit the South, hit the East, like E40 and Too Short. But do you think this album was even the kind of album that could have went that far, or was it just made for the Bay?
I think it could have made it. I mean, and I think people loved it. Other places too. A-Ball, MJG, he ended up on their album. You know, and I think that album that might have been an influence. You know, they might have heard that album. You know, never know. But I think the Bay is definitely special. At that time, you would think that others weren't listening, but they were. Juvenile and them, you know, Cash Money told Quinn and all them that they came up listening to the GOP. So you never know. Like the people, they listen. They listen.
I guess also just always this question is dealing with just like that commercial appeal, right? Did Mac hit the airways outside of the Bay? Did he get the features? Like I think the Tupac video, the ghetto theme, Tupac directing and being in that video helped create a buzz about Mac, and that's gonna always forever live on now when we talk about all the things related to Tupac. But
I think Sick would have hit the radio.
You think Sick would have hit the radio outside the Bay?
I don't know, but I think it should have.
and we talk about an album that had other singles. If he needed, he could have pumped like 5 good singles off of this, right?
Yeah,
because we had Sick with It, we had I Got to Have It, and then we had Ghetto Theme. Those were the official singles. But I think Money on the Dank could have been a single. Cracker 40 probably could have been a single too. The other stuff might have been too hard. It might have been too hard.
Right.
But I'm always thinking about that when I think about, because we were gonna do the Jacka's album. Like Jacka's album, the debut was super gangster, like. But then they had the one song with the Tony Braxton sample, where you could tell they were thinking, like, okay, yeah, this is for the radio. He had a couple songs like that. Matter of fact, on the album, you could always tell when the artist, like, whether it's the label or the artist himself, they're like, okay, you gotta have something for the party, something for the radio. And this album had it. I just wonder if it could have went further. So.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that it could have went further. you know, the right songs pushed. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you never know though. Like for what you think that should be pushed. You know, as an artist, the people might not.
Yeah.
The people might be liking other stuff. I even think my opinion.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
my opinion is one of those like deep cuts that's loved like a single. It reminds me of like
Yeah.
when 50 came out with What Up Gangsta. That wasn't a single, but so many people liked it. In my opinion, if you look this album up, that's gonna be one of the first songs that pop up.
And my wife is 32 years old. And shit, that's one of her favorite songs, is my opinion. She
Yeah.
you know, but she like a lot of OG Bay Area shit. And
Yeah.
and a lot of people her age do. And it's not a single.
It's not, but it's dope.
But it damn near could have been though.
Yep. I agree.
You
So
know?
sounds like what you giving that on a scale from 1 to 5 for Mass Appeal?
Man, I mean, Mass Appeal, I still feel like that it was a Bay Area album and that it had its own sound. But there's East Coast albums that have their own sound. There's LA albums that have their own sound. There's Southern albums that have their own sound. I feel like it could, if it was pushed correctly, it'd have been, for me, it's a 5. If you push it out there, we just were held down, you know. I just feel like we didn't have, that album wasn't a major. You know why I'll give it a number 5? Because guess what it did? It got him a record deal.
Oh yeah, because he was on Relativity Records for the next one, the Untouchable album.
Yep. They heard that album.
Yeah, it made its waves, and the thing about Bay Area music at that time, you selling out the trunk, 200,000 is platinum.
That's the album was crazy.
Yeah.
Like people, I guarantee you, ask somebody from the South right now about illegal business, they know about it.
Yeah, there's definitely a South to Bay connection, and a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Back then too, the sound, the Bay Area and the South sound so close together back then. Like Houston in the Bay.
Yeah.
Like South used to be my favorite genre of music outside the Bay Area.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It changed. It changed though. Like it got commercialized.
Well, I think a lot of the Southern rappers used to rap like the West Coast folk. Like you hear again, Outkast, Dre will tell you they was trying to rap like Souls of Mischief, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then it got super Southern with the crunk era and the trap era. But all right, we're gonna jump back to another Toriano question. How'd you get into food, man?
I always loved food. Since I was a kid, I always liked to cook. I always loved to cook. I've been practicing since I was a kid, and so I loved cookbooks. I loved watching cooking shows even before they were super popular. Like I would watch Yan Can Cook, like on Channel 9.
Wow.
Yeah, like and then my grandfather owned 2 restaurants, French cuisine restaurants. My grandmother, everybody in my family cooks really good, and so I always had a passion for it. And I went to culinary school. I only did like 2 months because at that time I was still like in the streets, you know what I mean? And so I didn't graduate. I was only in there for a little bit, but yeah, I would make food all the time on Instagram, and I always talk about doing a restaurant. And then one day I just decided I really want to do it, and just I was vegan by that time, and I hollered at my boy who owns restaurants, and his business is called Senior Seasick.
Yeah.
And he gave me some game, and then that was it. I just started going crazy.
Yeah. And I remember when it turned from the Quick Way to Vegan Mob, or it was just kind of just sitting there. It was the old Quick Way, and I remember when it popped up, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm definitely checking this out." And
Hell yeah.
Food and beverage got to be one of the hardest businesses to jump into. So I can tell you did your research, did your homework, and we had our family restaurant on the East Coast. I was telling my pops and my brother, I was like, because I was one of the owners, and I'm like, man, we need to be looking at trends. Like, look at this spot out here. They specialize in what they specialize in. They stick to what works, and they promote. And this is just hard because they come. My dad's restaurateur from way back when, like in the 70s, 80s. So adapting to the new stuff was a little hard for them. But
but he from the put the paper on your doorstep on your days. That was the old social media, like.
Yeah. So you use the hell out of that internet, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It takes us to Dimension 9, second to last dimension, the 3 I's, the impact, the innovation, and the influence. What do you think the impact of this album is and the influence to this day?
It had a lot of impact on the Bay Area game. I feel like it impacted the game. The sound, definitely huge impact on the rap game. The influence, it influenced a lot of people. I think so. Especially me.
What about the innovation? You think anything was innovated by this album? Was
yeah. The sound definitely was innovative because it was a sound of its own. Like, it definitely was brand new and very innovative. I would give it all. I give it a top. The top. Yeah.
Was there any slang words that was used on this album that people started using after this album, or like you brought some Vallejo slang to the forefront?
I think he said it, but I don't know if people start to use it. I know, they will sit back in. They would, they will say in the building. That's Vallejo. Like Mac Drake came out with I'm in the building and I'm feeling, but they been saying in the building. Like we in the building, man. Like they been saying that. Like
Cuddy was all over this album.
Cuddy. All that shit came later. Like maybe 20 years later, people start saying that shit. Like, or 10 years later, I would say. Let's because that was 93. I say like 2000s. Now I hear more people say Cuddy. I hear more people say in the building. Like they just wasn't even. They just was letting it fly by them.
Yeah, even It's All Good. It's All Good was a new phrase.
Yeah,
that started in the Bay. Because I remember MC Hammer was probably the first time on the East Coast we heard that phrase, and then that just became.
Yeah, like, it's all good. Yeah.
All right, so you giving that a 5. What's your favorite item from the Vegan Mob menu, man?
It always switches.
I knew you was gonna say that.
At one point it was garlic noodles, garlic rice. Garlic noodles and lopia, and then garlic rice and lopia. The links right now, the grilled chicken, the potato salad.
Naming the whole menu.
yeah. Like,
so there was a point, I don't know, I feel like y'all stopped doing it, man. There was a point where y'all used to serve the shrimp gumbo in a bread bowl.
Oh yeah, man. We did because it wasn't selling as much, like,
which is crazy to me because that's what I used to go for the most. That's my favorite all-time item on the menu. I know y'all still do the cup, but if y'all ever bring the bread bowl back, I'll be first in line. And then of course the CMOS drinks. The CMOS drinks are popping. That takes us to the final dimension 10, the overall timelessness and uniqueness. If we putting this among the other classics in hip-hop history, is this timeless and unique? Can you listen to it now without feeling like it's hella dated?
Definitely, that shit is timeless. Like I can do. I've always wanted to do Stick With This over, and I think I can still do that. I still think I can do. Somebody can come redo it. In my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the music is definitely, all great albums are timeless.
Wow. That's a hell of a take. That's gonna be the take I use when I'm putting a little clip of this episode up. All great albums are timeless.
Sure.
it's a lot of them that you can't say that about. You know, there's a lot of them that ain't stand the test of time. Some of the beats are played out, some of the words are played out.
I think anything that's original is timeless. Like anything that's great and it's original is it's timeless because it's not trying to copy something. You know what I mean? It's authentic. It's not trying to stick with the time. It's just doing as it please. It's just making good music. Good music is timeless.
That sounds like another 5. And on that note, that concludes the Category 1 review of this classic album that turns 30 this year, Legal Business by Mac Mall. Final Toriano question. What's next, bro? I know you got a book deal coming. And yeah, what's next for Vegan Mob, for you yourself?
Man, expansion. And I'm real quiet about this stuff right here, though.
Yeah, as you should be. And I make moves in silence. Be big about it when it's announced. I had other questions. I was going to ask you about family. I was going to ask you about giving back to the Bay, but I want to respect your time, man. But any last things you want to leave the people with?
Yep. Follow your happiness. Put God first. Put your family second. You know what I'm saying? And follow your happiness and live. Make your future self happy, proud.
Gems right there. I want to take a moment to shout out your wife, Maya, for being the inspiration that hooked me up with Jesse, and that wound up getting my book deal. Shout out to her book, The Mermaid Princesses. I told her in person, but I'm saying it on the platform so it'll be to the world. That was dope. Like I supported her book. Saw what Jesse did for hers. Hit up Jesse. Just came back from signing autographs for my book. So I mean, we connected,
That's
man.
dope. That's dope. Congratulations on that.
I wanted to give her a prop. Shout out to Bougie Smoothies.
Much love.
Shout out to the Mob Sodas. The Mob Sodas still coming out?
They were out. I stopped it for a second because I want to make sure if I do it correctly. So gotcha. I'm just focusing on this over here. Then once I get everything how I want it to be ran, then I can get my sodas back in the building.
There you go. Can you let the people know where they can find you?
Man, find me on Instagram at Official Vegan Mob. You can find me on Facebook at Vegan Mob, Vegan Soul, Vegan Barbecue, Vegan Soul Food. Find me on Twitter at The Real Vegan Mob, and then you can even find me on Social Club, man. Burner Social Club, man. I got Plug Social Club, and it's Vegan Mob. Shout out to Burner, man. It's my boy, man.
There you go. It's the Mob. Y'all already know what it is. And y'all go check out theraproulette.com where y'all can leave all your ratings on this album yourself. And Toriano, my birthday twin, man. I probably might even air this episode on our birthday.
Let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, and it's just like that, man. I appreciate you for making time today. Yeah, it's special. And if you do that Sick With It song over, I want to come to the video shoot. I'll be in the background.
Come on. Let's get it. Come on. You already know.
All right, man. Y'all know what it is. Until next time, F for Rap Critic. They talk about it while I live it. Word to meth. Peace.
Much love. Yeah.